I've got a pretty good idea.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll fly
Hello,
back.
everyone. Welcome back to The Whole Perspective. My name is Kevin Delory, Chief Lending Officer with EPM. I'm joined by my partner in crime, Kenny Phillips, Senior Vice President of EPM. And we have two great guests today. But before we get into it, I just want to reflect for a minute on the first three episodes. You know, this is called The Whole Perspective because it's all about our guest perspective. It's not about EPM's perspective. It's not about my perspective. And I'll tell you this, I've learned something from every episode. And right now, going into one of the toughest markets, I would ask you all to be active listeners and actually take notes because I've done that and I'm learning something so I'll be prepared for 2022. And I go back to the first episode and why we did this and with Jamie Kavanaugh. And she told me a story and I was an active listener. And I listened to her story from her perspective. And it was a game changer for me. So I just wanted to share that before we get started because it meant a lot to me doing some reflection on this morning too. You got two great guys here that can give you a lot of tips and tricks to, navigate through 2022. John Donafio and Matthew Schultz. Matt and I go way back. These two guys, by the way, are like Renaissance men. They are amazing cooks because I watched some of the meals they prepared. They have their own wine. Matt sings and does some acting, these guys got a lot going on. But I've known Matt probably longer than any other loan officer I know out there and have maintained a relationship. And I just want to share a story how far Matt has come. I met Matt when he was at Worldwide Financial Resources, sitting in the basement with the Situation from anyone that watches Jersey Shore and some other cast characters that were there. They had their own nicknames that we probably can't repeat. And Matt was a guy that was, just new to the business, just fresh out of college and, had all these other things going on. But he worked harder than everyone else. And that's why he is where he is today. And someone asked me recently, I put him up on the mortgage icon on LinkedIn. And they said, well, is he old enough to be an icon? I said, if you can accomplish what he has in such a short period of time, in my opinion, these two guys are icons. So, we're going to jump into it. And Kenny, take it away.
No, exciting today. Exciting show today. We have the executive vice presidents of the retail branching from American Financial Network, as Kevin said, Matt Schultz and John Donafio. Both been in the business over 20 years, working in the financial service industry. In 2014, they partnered up, started Monticello Capital Group, and the mission is to assist mid-cap mortgage banking companies to increase volume and expand their national footprint. So welcome, guys.
Thank you so much for having me on the phone, and thank you for such great introductions. And, Kevin, you were there every step of the way, and I've seen how you actually go into companies and change the dynamic and bring that culture and that wonderful, wonderful attitude and just, constant growth. And anything that you put your mind to and anything that you touch kind of turns to gold. So you were actually the very first account executive that I ever used when you were working at New Century. You were responsible for my very, very first closed loan. So thank you for that. So you helped pave the way for me. So I really appreciate it.
That's awesome. Guys, I want to ask you guys something. So, Kenny and I have a unique dynamic, right? Kenny was, when I had left New Century, that I know this is a bad analogy for Kenny, but I still think it's funny. He was like my Renee Zellweger. I said, who's coming with me? And the guy came with me. So we have a partnership of 20 years and we complement each other. So what is the story between John and Matt? How did you guys do it? Because you guys complement each other and it reminds me a lot of Kenny and I. So how did that all come about?
Sure. You run with that one, Johnny?
No, you could run with that one, Matty. I love the way you explain our entire story.
So John and I, we've both got into the business around the same time, fresh out of college. John did a short stint at Merrill Lynch in the financial planning arena. But we grew up in New Jersey. So we kind of paralleled each other in the industry. We both started around that 2002, 2003 mark. And John was kind of always on the Fed charter side at the Home Savings Bank of America and all the non-licensed kind of entities that were out there in the branching world. And I was always on the correspondent side, very similar to where we are today. And we always tried to recruit each other. I was like, oh, who's this stud, this handsome guy that's killing it, and we always tried to recruit each other. So we got a call back in 2009 from a dear friend, Barry Habib. A lot of you guys that are watching the show probably know of him from, Mortgage, Market Guide, Loan Toolbox, and now very successful MBS Highway, which we all use. We love it. And he basically said, hey guys, I have this opportunity. I know you guys are the best at what you do in regards to building companies, bringing on growth, adding branches, old school pound the pavement, center of influence type originators. Why don't we come together and we build something special? So I remember we first started together, and I think it was our first week into this new company. It was a West Coast company. I won't get into any names, but it was so funny because it was right around Thanksgiving time, and I remember to the date that we brought on maybe our first 20 million a month of production. And John was having a baby, his firstborn, Gianna, and he was in the hospital and he was having the baby. And all of a sudden we got a call from the company and they said, we don't want to expand on the East Coast. We don't like the margins that are out there, and we want to pull the plug on it. So I had to call John, and I'm like, John, we just lost our jobs. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm in the emergency room. I'm in a baby right now. So anyway, we were resilient. We vetted out about 22 different companies. We went to a company called Residential Finance Corporation. We took the company. They were doing $800 million a year of call center business. And we grew them to a little bit over 2.4 billion inside of 18 months. I mean, we took it to a 60% purchase concentrate. We loved it. We really had a great thing. A lot of the branches, even our marketing team, everybody are from those days. I think that was back in like 2009 and 10. And, to this day, we still have a lot of our original branches and, all of our staff and marketing team and everything like that. And I think that, going through those kinds of humbling times that we've kind of all gone through in, 2006 and 7 and 8. And I remember saying, if we could, have this kind of a market again, we'll never sleep. And we ended up getting that recently. And I don't think John and I have slept for over 3 years now. But anyway, we found that company. We built them up to 2.4 billion. They ended up getting acquired. They wanted to change a lot of the entrepreneurial spirit that John and I had preached and the what we originally pitched to the guys to bring people on. So John and I made sure that all of our branches got paid. We made sure that everybody got every cent that was owed to them. And I think that that's really where we built our reputation. We thought we were deferring our income, but it ended up being permanent deferment. But I know a lot of people in this industry would have just, blamed it on the company. But, John and I went into our own pocket. And I just remember the days that, when John and I first started and we were eating cottage cheese and water, and we were deciding on who, I was like, John, you have a family, you make your mortgage payment this month, and next month maybe I'll make my car payment. And it really got to those kinds of levels. And, I think, I couldn't be more grateful for having such a great partner like John. And, we've gone on to do some amazing things. We built multiple companies to multiple billions of dollars. And then about just about 7 years ago, we came to American Financial Network. Absolutely fell in love with the ownership. We loved the fact that it was a father and son company. That kind of father and son feel radiated throughout the entire company, and we just fell in love with it. And when you go through the industry and you deal with, all different characters, I'm sure we've all dealt with pretty much, all types of life in our industry. And from going from companies where you had to kind of look over your shoulder and, negotiate every time it came time to get paid, to find good, humble, honest people, that's really all that John and I were looking for. And when you team that up with, giving us the keys to the castle and give us the entrepreneurial spirit, that's what really did it for us. So, I remember a good story. John and I were, I think we were about 9 months into working for American Financial Network. And I remember getting a call from Jack, one of the owners, and he's like, what are you guys doing? And we're like, what do you mean? And he goes, you guys haven't taken a paycheck in 9 months. And California-based company, worried about labor laws and things. And we were just like, Jack, we're not going to come back and sue you for minimum wage or anything like that. We just want to, basically, prove ourselves to you and put our money where our mouth is. And, right now we're kind of going through this weird period in the industry where I know that everybody's, when they start seeing things slow down, there's a lot of companies out there that are throwing massive sign-on bonuses and everything around. And, John and I have just never been those guys. We never took a sign-on bonus. We never took a salary. We've always done everything where it's eat what you kill, and we just make sure that we negotiate a deal that's very rich on the production because we're that confident in what we can do.
We'll send up to your mic there, Matt.
We lost you.
We lost your mic.
120.
Hey, Matt, oh, there he goes.
Yep. We got a little bit over 320 branches throughout the country. We finished up just under 14 billion. I think we're right around 25th or 26th in Scotsman's Guide. We're the #1 company in the whole country for customer satisfaction. So that's one thing that we're very, very proud about. But that's John and I's journey to this date. And we're just, in hyper growth mode. We're always looking to grow. There hasn't been one year that we've done less volume than the previous years, so we intend to keep that running. This year, we definitely have a lot in store for it to maintain that pace. But it's something that I would never do anything different than what we did to get to the point.
Kenny, before I turn over, I just want to say what's the thing about Matt said there, and it's something that reminds me of us, right? A couple things, and that is, it says a lot about the character of John and Matthew when they say, we didn't want to take a paycheck because, we want to prove ourselves. We want to earn it. And that was one thing about every place we've ever been, Kenny and I. We always look, we say, we need an office, but we want to get you our first office at our previous company had a cargo doors in the back, and you could dump off in the bathroom towels are fundamental.
With a 2-inch gap underneath the door.
It was a little cold door. But, it's one of those things that says a lot about who you guys are. It's let me prove to you my worth. I don't need to tell you what it is. You figure it out, and then we can talk from then. So that was really awesome. Before I turn over to you, Kenny, the other thing I just want to say is, Matt, champions dominate. And that's what you guys are doing. Year over year, continuously growing because you're not afraid of a challenge. So, Kenny, I'll turn
I was going to say, you said something here. You kind of brushed over some numbers that were kind of incredible, right? You said you went from 800 million to 2.4 billion in 18 months. You guys are so used to success, you kind of ran right past it like it was no big deal. But if you could share with the people, like, what do you do to get some kind of exponential growth like that? Like, what goes into that?
You want me to run with that one, Matty?
Yeah, Johnny, touch on it, and I'll add to it if there's anything else that I think should be added.
So, Matt and I have always had a understanding of growing with scale. And when we looked at this and said, how is it that we can cover as much ground as possible with just the two of us? And we came up with this concurrent platform where we said it would make a lot of sense if one of us can focus on operations, one of us can focus on continual acquisition of talented loan officers, talented branch managers. And we built our entire business just that way. In the very beginning, I was basically set up in the operations position and, helping to develop the openers, the processors, underwriters, closers, funders, and really developing an entire operations center step by step. But we did everything in such a way where it was completely scalable. We knew that at some point we wanted to close 50 million a month. We wanted 50 to eventually become 100 million a month. Right. Wanted 100 million a month to become $1 billion a month. And in doing so, from the very beginning, we said, if we can build this in such a way where we can scale up and we can put certain people in certain positions, and we know that at any given time, it's just a matter of growing the pre-existing foundation that we have, well, we've got a recipe for success. And at that point, we knew exactly how we wanted to build the operations piece. And from there, Matt was kind of running with everything sales driven. So Matt was finding branch managers in a multitude of different ways and utilizing some of the social media sources that he has, some of the great recruiting partners that we've had at the time. And we built this so that it would kind of grow concurrently. And as those are growing, there were times, and I'm lucky to have such a great partner in Matt. Matt and I have a lot of interchangeable skills. So there were times where, quite frankly, I came back and said, guys, like I am a little bored of the operations piece. I'm usually in sales. I love sales. and Matt would kind of concede and say, I'll take over for a bit. And Matt would then start running the operations piece. I would move into sales. I'd be speaking with the loan officers and branch managers, bringing them in. Matt would oversee everything operations wise. And by the way, can you imagine Matt overseeing underwriting when these credit risk decisions are coming over? And it's,
I closed his first loan. I know how bad that could be.
Yeah, exactly. He had an
That's
approved
great.
stamp about this big, and it was just every time. So, interchangeable. We had a great time with it, and I think that where we both look at each other and we kind of pinch ourselves. We feel like we're super lucky right now, where we have the ability to do what we love, and what we love is being able to both be on the front lines, both continuing to work in a concurrent fashion, but now we just sort of work sequentially, where Matt will speak with some of the great opportunities that we have. After he explains the company from sort of a top-down approach and walks them through it, I'll be able to give them the economic background, walk them through the pro formas, give them a good understanding of how to juxtapose their current compensation and, entire platform versus ours. And from that point on, we put deals together. So it's been working extremely well. And that's sort of the recipe for our success as partners and really as business developers.
I'll tell you guys, it's got nothing to do with luck. You guys are two of the hardest working guys I've ever seen. And I'd like something you said there, John, and it is something here at EPM. We actually had a conversation on it this morning. It's people first. You find the right people for the job. Right. Don't be afraid to make the decisions when that person isn't right for the job. Just because you hired them, it's one thing to, not take ownership of a bad hire and let them continue on in your organization and bring down the service levels or whatever. It's another thing to recognize that up front and say, I made a mistake and move on. Just like with us, we make a mistake sometimes. It's about explaining it. Say, I made a mistake and here's what happened. It won't happen again. Here's what I'll do to fix it. So I would tell you guys nothing to do with luck. I see how much you guys are moving and shaking and constantly on the move. It's hard work. And that's how anyone's going to kick ass in 2022. It's old school, nose to the grindstone, put the time in, get the right people that follow you like you guys. I mean, how long have your average employee been with you? That's what amazes me. I see these people. I mean, just since we've been on air, best bosses in the world, best guys in the mortgage industry. I'm looking at the comments. How do you guys get that? What is it that you do? What are you building for culture?
You know what it is that it's servant leadership. I mean, it's so beyond John and Matt or even AFN. It's just it's a servant leadership where we basically roll up our sleeves. We're in the trenches and we hire the right people. I mean, you hit it right on the nose, Kev. Is that we found it took years, it took decades to formulate and find the best of heads of credit risk, the best underwriting managers, the best heads of closing, funding, underwriters, and everything. And I think when they came on board and they and they were hand selected, and we just got the best of the best, true leaders, and for John and I, it really came down to we'd pick up our phone at midnight. They see us responding to text messages and emails at 1 a.m. And we never expected any of our staff to ever match or do that. We believe in quality of life and everything like that. But I guess because we hired such great leaders and such great people that saw that, John and I were willing to jump on a call at midnight. John and I were willing to answer emails at, 1, 2 in the morning. And we were willing to take out the trash. We were willing to jump involved in, CD issues or appraisal issues or underwriting issues or closing issues and basically wear any and every hat in the trenches with our guys. And I think that's really what, amounted that kind of this momentum that just, okay, so if Matt and John are answering emails to 1 a.m, we'll answer emails to 2 a.m. And, it just started to feed off that. And it just became so much bigger. And when you have that kind of feeling and you're a salesperson and you see, the leadership, you see the heads of operations responding back late at night, caring about your business, working on the weekends and, doing all the things that it takes. It's like, wow, we found our home and they truly care about it. And then, I feel like something that kind of plagued the industry, at least, kind of when I was going through the ranks and everything, it always seemed like it was this operations versus sales, oh, that, loan officer makes 10 grand on this deal. I just get my paycheck, but I gotta, underwrite it. I gotta do this, I gotta do that. And, we kind of made sure that, in all of the comp plans in regards to our operations and everything, that they had, skin in the game. They have performance bonuses on every single file that closes. So they're on the same page as the originator. The mindset has that can do, will do attitude, because they want to make that bonus just as bad as the originator wants to make their commission. So we kind of did a great job of bringing on the right leadership, the right staff, great branches, which we do vet out our branches. Just because you're doing a lot of production doesn't mean that, we're going to take you on. We have to make sure it's a cultural fit, because we want to make sure that if an underwriter or a manager is going to answer their phone while they're having dinner with their family, that they like the person on the other line and they want to do it because they want to help, and view everything as one big family. And that kind of mentality radiated from, John and I's background and looking at all of our staff as equals, as family, and, not being, bigger than anybody in there and willing to do anything to make things.
You get me excited over here. I got to tell you why I'm getting so antsy. You just nailed something that I've been preaching to anyone that will listen. So one promise I made to Chris Gordon, who was on our last episode, and that was I will no longer call a loan officer a loan officer. They are a mortgage advisor. They do more than just be a loan officer. So you'll never hear me say loan officer again after that time. But I've been preaching this, and Kenny will attest to this, and to anyone that listens. If you want to be a game changer in this industry, it isn't about product. It isn't about rate. It's nothing. It's so simple as what you just said. Don't refer to sales and don't refer to ops. We're one team. Right. Any company that can accomplish that, you just gave away the secret sauce, because I've been preaching it and you just proved my point. The secret sauce is stop referring to everyone as sales and ops, and you refer them all as a team. You're all team AFN. You all have a job to get that borrower the best experience and get into their home, whether you're a mortgage advisor or underwriter, setup. So I've been preaching that probably for the last 5 years, but you finally gave it credibility, because you just shared it with everyone that is what is making you guys grow at a rate like no other. So thank you for that testimonial for my great idea. I'm taking credit for it, even though you executed it. I've been trying to execute it. Now I have proof of concept. So thank you. Sorry, Kenny.
No, it's a great point. I think it's all about ownership, right? The end user. I think that's what people forget, right? They look at their job specifically. How does my job affect the process? But at the end of the day, it's really about the end user. It's not about your job and your position. It's making sure that borrower has the best experience. So kudos. That's a great point. Great point. Just a couple of things. You touched on can do, will do culture, right? John, if you want to explain on that a little bit, we talk about culture all the time here. It thrives, it lives here. It's every day, what you put into it. And you said can do, will do. What is the can do, will do for you guys?
I think we
lost John.
All right. Well, it looks like, Matt, you're taking that question.
So can do, will do is just something that we wanted to kind of get out to all of our staff, because listen, it's a tough job, in the sales side, going out there. We have to deal with so much adversity. There's so many different moving parts. There's so many different things, to try to get a deal to completion. Nevertheless, go out and hunt and find that deal. And what we wanted to do is we really wanted to look at our loan originators or loan advisors as our client, right? So that's our client. And if we wow them and we make their experience exceptional and we have the best turn times and we get that clear to close well in advance to give everybody the good news, well, that's gonna obviously reflect and down to the borrower, right? So if our loan officer's having such an amazing experience, our loan advisor, then as a byproduct, of course the customer is going to be happy, and that's something that radiates through, because I think we have a little bit over 30,000 online reviews, and we average 4.83 stars with I think last year we got up to 97% consumer satisfaction rating as a company. So I think we're the number one company in the whole country for customer satisfaction. And we did that by, viewing our mortgage advisors as our clients, and having that can do, will do attitude is about, if it can get done, let's get it done. Let's have that sense of urgency. Let's, listen, we're all human, and we're by no means a perfect company. I don't think there's a perfect company out there. And when you're relying on third parties, appraisers, somebody along the way is going to drop the ball, right? It's just going to happen. And, for us and our staff to kind of go in and pick that ball up and make the layup and make our advisors look great and impress their clients so that you get that residual business. That's that can do, will do mentality and attitude that we preach.
It's like Kenny here with our foundational, right? So we believe in foundational leadership. It's the same thing, right? We're in the basement. We're holding up everything. We're holding up the business, and it starts at the bottom. I love when I talk to these guys, these old school guys. They still think it's the old triangle. I'm at the top and everyone's below me. That's why you don't have culture. The reason we have culture, the reason you have culture, is because you believe that you're holding up, bracing up everyone else, and that's awesome to hear. It's we preach it, and this has been great, because if anyone's not taking notes of how to run a class organization, you're missing the boat.
All right. Just want to go back a little bit. We might go a little bit over time here. I got a good question for you guys. You talk about leadership, right? And hiring great leaders. And it's so difficult, right? There's so much competition out there right now, looking for good people. And everyone has a great resume, right? The salespeople generally, so they got a good interview process. What do you guys look for to find those great leaders and sift through the ones that are kind of, just dress rehearsal?
Well, I think that you kind of have to look at it in sort of two different ways. In the operations piece, for Matt and I, culture has always been extremely important. The resume is something that we're always going to consider. The interview is something that we're always going to consider, but ensuring that they fit our cultural mold is paramount to us. What we've built is sort of a family atmosphere. Everybody within our organization cares about one another. And if somebody's absent, if somebody needs a little bit of support, there's always 2 to 3 to 4 people there to immediately jump in and help them out. We have to ensure that every new hire that we make still fits that same cultural framework and that they fit within it. That said, we'll ask some funny questions in the middle of an interview. And when we're interviewing somebody that really has like a phenomenal resume, they don't expect some off the wall questions, but we may come in the middle of the interview and ask, if it's a Friday night and it's 9:30 and one of our loan officers hits us up and says, hey, we absolutely need to have this loan approved by tomorrow, 10 o'clock a.m. We need to know that we can walk this new realtor relationship and impress the heck out of them. Could you get this done for us? If you're with your family at 9:30, you guys just finished dinner, you have an ice cream on the couch, watching reruns of the Kardashians, are you going to be okay stopping what you're doing, jumping on that computer, and running through a quick approval for us? Right. And it's a crazy question. If someone come back and say, no chance, like that's my time, that's not who we got it, and we respect that. But who we really look for is that underwriter who says, hey, if that's not the norm and you need to jump in every once in a while, no problem. Whatever it takes to make the team successful, we're here for you. And that's the type of stuff that Matt and I look for. And every one of our underwriters, not that we'll ever abuse it, but every one of our processors, every one of our openers, every one of our closers, funders, anybody that we have across the board would do that within a moment's notice. And for us, that resonates throughout our entire organization and it becomes infectious. On the sales side, it's really the same type of stuff. It's, we want leaders that have a phenomenal representation to the street. Somebody that's going to be professional, somebody that's going to represent our company and our brand in such a way that we would be proud. Past that, we want to know what their true propensity for growth is going to be, because Matt and I really take an interest and we have passion in helping people achieve their greatest goals. And we've had so much terrific coaching in the past. We love to sort of sit with everyone that's on our sales team and help figure out different strategies to help get to that next level. Business planning is tremendous, helping with the creation and identification of centers of influence and referral partners. How you're going to actually find them is so important. And the different strategies that we have and we've developed over the years are things that we just enjoy implementing on each of the sales teams that we have. And Matt and I have actually got to the point now where we've become too big to sit down and individually go through all of this. So we've educated some of who we feel are the best coaches in the industry. And we have then had those coaches educate each one of our sales team so that they can really understand everything that Matt and I know and what we believe can bring a $1 million producer into a $10 million a month producer. So those are the type of things that I would say we look for in leaders.
Yeah, you guys, it's awesome because it starts with at the top. It starts with the two of you. You know, I've got to know you guys for a long time now. You know, this episode meant a lot to me. Like I said, I remember Matt when he was just out of college in that basement, and it was actually, oddly enough, it was my first trip out to see a broker. The culture they had there was amazing, and to see how far you've come as a person, as a leader. And I watch you guys, and I watch what your people say about you when you're not looking, not when you guys are on a post and like, hey, kudos, boss, you know, like everyone does that, right? What are they saying to you when you're not listening, when you're not around? And they all say the same thing. These guys will do anything we ask of them. These guys are there for me. So what you guys are doing, that's why in 2022, where other people are struggling, you guys will have people that will leave it on the field every day. And I like to think Kenny and I have that same, you know, I've been with some of my guys for over 20 years. And that's what makes this so special. And I hope everybody's listening to the little things that you guys are doing to build that culture, asking the right questions. You know, I just saw our director of VP of HR training say he's going to use the question, right? So this is what I mean about this podcast. It's so special because it's your perspective and it's us listening to it. And I'm actually writing things down that I'm going to do. I always leave with a thing full of notes here because even if I could take one thing, it's awesome. Right, Kenny? I mean, that's what it's all about. I think that's what makes our relationship so good because Kenny knows if I call him at 12:30 at night, I need something.
Right.
Not what I used to need when I was single. It's different now as a dad. Yeah, I need something different. Come help me out. So
no, you make a great point. I think, you know what, when you have this relationship for so long, you guys been together 20 years, we've been together 20 years, you're kind of confident in the other person's strengths and you know what they're not so strong at and they can lean on you for. Just really quick, you know, just to ask you guys, John, what do you think Matt's biggest strengths are and vice versa?
Oh, good.
That is a good one. So I think, you know, first of all, I would say Matt's got a lot of strengths, and as Matt's partner, I feel like I'm truly very lucky. He's while there's a lot that we offer insofar as skill sets that are interchangeable, Matt has the ability to bring an unprecedented level of enthusiasm, of energy, of passion, and he brings that on every single call. And it's not easy to do. When you're doing 5 or 6 pitch calls a day, to bring that level of enthusiasm and passion and energy, and to do it the same way, with the same veracity, I give him unbelievable amount of credit for stuff like that. And his ability just to light the room up when he walks in. Not many people have that. It's really something that makes Matt extremely unique. I am going to tell you, Matt is. It's hard to believe how good of a guy he is because he told a story earlier, and I'm just going to kind of echo what he said. When we were in a position where we had to move from one company to the next, the funds were real tight. And at the time I had a family and Matt was single and his expenses were manageable. He came to me and said, hey, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to take anything this month. I'm not going to take anything next month. He's like, I'm cool living on tuna fish and cottage cheese. He's like, I want to make sure that you can make your mortgage payment. I want to make sure that your cars are paid for, and I want to make sure you put food on the table for your family. And it's hard to believe that we've had such incredible success together over the years. But prior to that, we truly came from humble beginnings. And knowing that you have a partner in somebody like Matt that deals with situations and levels of adversity in that particular way, for me, meant the world. So that was tremendous. And, I can also tell you in such a genuine way, when we speak with branches, and I know that when Matt, who takes the initial phone call for every branch, when he's speaking with them, he's going to be very genuine. And if we feel as though that branch is better off staying where they're currently at, because maybe they're not happy with their operations, but after we hear about it, their operational position is not that bad. Or perhaps it's a pricing situation, and after we go through some pricing scenarios, the pricing isn't as bad as they thought. And after we really go through everything, we look at it and say, is it truly worth you making that change? Are we going to be able to make your world round by comparison to where you're at? And is it worth the agony of going through a transition? And Matt is the guy who will, in the most genuine and honest way, sit there and say, don't do it. Stay where you're at right now. If things regress, then let us know. But prior to that, your situation's not that bad. And we'd love to have you. You're a great partner. But we're not going to put you in a position where we're going to take you just for our own selfish need and greed. We'd rather you stay where you're at because that's the right thing to do. So in my opinion, that's what makes Matt Matt.
Matt, you got a tough one to follow up, buddy.
To follow, Matt.
Make me look good, Matty.
Well, thank you so much for the kind words, Johnny. I mean, we became brothers, and Johnny's good at everything I'm not good at. I mean, I'm not good at a lot of things, and Johnny's he's the most well-rounded, most detail organized, amazing person to structure deals and just detail oriented, and he's salt of the earth. He's a saint. He deals with a lot of day-to-day stuff that I just can't get over the compassion and the patience that he has and what he does. But he's just a fearless leader, and we've gotten through all the trials and tribulations through companies and everything like that. But he's a warrior. He always has your back, no matter what ends up happening. But I've never gotten to work with somebody that would match, not only match your work ethic, because he's the hardest worker that I've ever had the privilege to see or to work with, and fortunately to be a partner of. But he's just the most amazing person. So we've had to battle. We've had to get into the trenches and protect our branches, protect our people from companies in the past, and go through fighting to get people paid and all that kind of stuff. And there's nobody in this entire world that I'd rather be partners with in that regard. And I'm just so blessed because I couldn't even list all the skill set, but I've never met a more brilliant business-minded person that is so just amazingly articulate and organized, and just the best when it comes to numbers, the best when it comes to structuring deals that make sense, that are win-win for everybody. And he is the biggest part of our success.
That's I think you guys, again, and it's just so weird because Kenny and I have a similar relationship, but I don't want to make him tear up if I said what he meant to me, but something that's right. It's right. When you find the right place, it's like family. Eddie Perez is like a brother to me now. He calls me and say, "What's up, brother?" I lost 2 brothers this year, so I gained 1. I already have one in Kenny. His son calls me Uncle Kevin. So that's the relationship. He's the best man at my wedding. So when you find that person, you find those people, and you put it together, there's no better feeling. I know we're running over, and we normally, this podcast is normally defined by how you add value and what's your value to the industry. That's all you guys have talked about. And I hope everybody was listening. I hope everyone took notes, because the stuff that these guys just put out there is stuff that I hope you all listen. You all wrote down as many notes as you can. And you're right, Phil Brousseau. It's about people that you could trust. And about, I often use the saying, if I was in a foxhole and I yelled charge, would you go with me? Something, if Kenny yelled charge, I'd be in front of him and I'd take the bullet for him, the same way you would for John and the same way John would do for Matt. So what you guys have created with culture, with the way leading from the foundation, is absolutely awesome. The last question I have for John, I don't mean to put him in the hot seat, but I am the host. Whose hair is better, mine or Matt's?
It's a long one.
All right. Kenny, you were a part of that equation. Sorry, Kenny. Guys, I really appreciate your time today, man. We could talk for hours with you guys. I would definitely want to have you guys back, because there's so much more that people can learn, because the things that I say, I'm not in the retail side, and I bring these, I hate saying sales and ops, but I bring these 2 sides together to have one team. You guys have proven that the formula works. You guys have proven that foundational leadership is real, and when you do it the right way, it works, because you've created raving fans in and outside of the industry, through your customers, through your employees. You know, John, I love the questions that you ask in your interviews. That's real stuff. It's about being real and being true to your values and who you two guys are. And, you know, Kenny, I mean, you could close it out, but I just think, you know, I normally let them answer the question, but they have nailed it all throughout this podcast. Their value is the two of these guys. If anyone's looking for a home in 2022 and is a nervous wreck, I'd be having a conversation with John or Matt. I really would. And I'm not saying that because I'm friends with these guys. I'm saying it because everything they said during this podcast, the way they answered every question and how real they are.
No, absolutely. I think, you know,
Thank you.
the success you had, the sustainability, the longevity, it kind of speaks to everything that you guys said today. You know, to define your value, in one word, would you guys say? What's the biggest thing?
You know, I want to just say that I feel like to define the value is a mindset, right? And I think that what makes John and I so successful is that we're not so concerned with our individual success. We're concerned with everybody else's success. And when you get to that point when it doesn't become a sale, it doesn't become something that is only driven by economics or money, that's going to become special. And I will tell you that when you're in this industry for 20 years, you have humbling experiences. And, you know, John and I have gone through a lot. And I always say, it's one of my favorite quotes. I say that, you know, it's not the money that makes the man. It's the times when he didn't have any that does. And I don't know if that's something that is near and dear to me because of all these kinds of, you know, all the times that we were, you know, we were kind of starving, that we just had to muscle through it. And I know we're getting ready to go into a tough time. And, you know, and this is for everybody listening on the phones, is that, and that are watching today, is that, you know, if you stick with it and your focus is on creating and putting somebody else in a better situation, whether you're, you know, a branch manager that are, you know, overseeing and leading, you know, loan advisors and putting them in a better situation, or whether you're a regional or a divisional and you're trying to help your branches grow and help them get to the next level, or if you're a loan advisor and you're working with a borrower and putting them in a better situation. I think that the value add was the mindset that, you know, John and I, it's not about money for us anymore. You know, knock on wood, we have had a good run. We've never been that concerned with money. We've been up here and we've been down here and we've been back up here again. Our mindset is to create more Matt and Johns. And, you know, we don't let ego get in the way. And, you know, the thing that would make us the most happy is if we can, you know, help people supersede wherever we've gotten to in our successes. And I think the overall mindset and entrepreneurial spirit is the value add that we bring.
You know, I love the quote about, you know, you check your ego. I have a sign on my door that says, check your ego at the door. Yeah, Eddie had sent it over to me. We begin every one of our leadership meetings by hanging up our ego. But, I wanted to thank everyone for tuning in to another episode of the Whole Perspective podcast. I want to big thank you to Matt and John. I mean, they shared a lot of nuggets today that can really help you grow your business and not only get through 2022, but to kick some tail in 2022. Matt, you have in your music career, you've probably had an EP in the past, extended play, and this is our first EP with the Whole Perspective. We went a little over, but it's hard not to when you have two guys that have so much to share. And I would just ask everyone to check back, next week for our next episode of the Whole Perspective. Thank you so much, Matt. Kenny, thanks as always.
Thank you. Continue success, buddy.
Thank you, Kevin.
John, we'll make sure you thank him for us.
Enthusiasm and leadership in this industry, and we're some of your biggest fans. And I watch the show every week, and I learn from everybody. Every person that I come in contact with, I learn something. So you guys are doing something that's amazing in the industry. It's what the industry wants. It's what the industry needs. And you guys giving everybody an unbiased perspective and digging into people's success just so you can help create success with everybody else, which is why you guys are in the position that you're in today. We really appreciate you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it. Sorry, we have a windstorm in the area, so I just got knocked offline. I'm back on now, but not sure exactly how much I missed, but I would just say, on the heels of what Matt said, we completely appreciate everything that you guys are doing for the industry. It's really tremendous. And, if I had to answer the last question that you threw out there, I'd say our biggest, well, maybe one word that can sort of summarize who we are and one of the most important things in our business is probably differentiation. And if I can maybe throw one more out there, it would be opportunities. Differentiation, just because we find that where everybody, all the pitches kind of sound like they're out of the box today, and being able to come up with something that's unique, something that differentiates you so that you are the loudest voice in the room, because let's just face it, it's a super competitive market right now.
Right.
And the truth is, instead of when you're talking to a branch, them just speaking with 2 or 3 other opportunities, now it's more like 10, 11, 12 opportunities. You have to make sure that you are the loudest voice in that room. And Matt and I have done everything that we possibly can throughout 2021 to ensure that going into 2022, we're absolutely prepared, not just for ourselves, but for all of the branches that are within our pre-existing network. So in doing so, when we speak with branches of other companies and ask, what level of preparation has your company done for you? And then we speak to the differentiations of AFN and our structure and platform versus what they have. That's where we start to see the biggest difference. And opportunities. I think that part of what helped Matt and I become successful in the early stages is being able to identify opportunities where others don't. Being able to understand how we can potentially take something that doesn't look like it has much of a propensity for future growth and find the value in it, and then really exploit that value and get it to a point in which it becomes a success for us. So sorry, I had a little bit more than just a word for you. But,
That's all right. That's great.
I think that they're important notes. So
100%.
once again, guys, thank you so much. Really appreciate you bringing us on the show. And we absolutely love what you're doing, what you're doing here and what you're doing for the industry. It's going to be so impactful.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank
All
you
right,
for
guys.
tuning in, and we'll see you next Friday at 11:30 for another episode of The Whole Perspective.
Thanks, guys.